Hello and welcome to another episode of the No Nay Never podcast. It's your host, Natalie Bromley, and this week it's the analysis show, and we are looking back at a very hard-earned point away at Manchester United, making things very exciting at the bottom of the table. Will the Clarets be able to avoid relegation? Well, it all depends on Forest, points deductions, Luton, and goodness knows what else. I'm joined by my colleagues Robbie and Tom this week, who are going to be looking back at that game and doing all the maths with me to figure out whether or not the Clarets will be back in the Championship or staying in the Premier League next season. So let's not wait. Let's go. Gentlemen, welcome. You've returned from Old Trafford safely. How are we both?
Good, confident, positive.
Excellent. I like this. Oh, don't spoil it, Tom. Don't spoil it. Come on. How are you feeling?
I'm all right. I feel more sorry for Robbie, who had to watch the game with me on Saturday. He's probably still got the ringing in his ears. So, yeah, if he's positive, I've got to be as well.
We did see, actually, I did see some of the language. He shared some videos of you, Tom. It was not suitable for a friendly audience. We cannot clip any of that audio. You were you were getting in there, which is nice to see. It's nice to see. So where are we? We of course went to United at the weekend. Many of us wrote us off, but many of us thought this was a very good time to play United. They're not exactly in good form, and as it turns out, they were not. 1-1 draw. United took the lead 79 minutes, and Anthony goal following a missed pass by Sander Berg. We'll come on to talk about that in a minute. Before the Clarets, the 87th minute, got a penalty at Old Trafford, and Zeki Amdouni being the coolest customer around the whole of Old Trafford and putting that away after Onana basically tried to take his head off, which is not wise. And even Old Trafford can't save you in those things. Leaves Burnley 19th in the table. Let me have a look at my notes here so I don't get this wrong. 24 points, 2 behind Forest and 1 behind Luton, with just 3 games to go. Sheffield United have now been confirmed relegated, so it is 2 from Forest, Luton and Burnley. Will Burnley be the ones to survive? Robbie, let's kick off with you then, because I think one of the things that you raised in our group chat, and I definitely followed your cue with this in our piece this week for BBC Sport Online, the Fans View, and we all very much acknowledged this, was that it's very easy to kick the players when you're down. Emotion gets the better of you. And a lot of the criticism this season has been justified. But you've seen a turn in these players, an increased work rate, an increased positivity, a much stronger mental strength. And you wanted to start with that, I think. I'm going to give the floor to you just to talk about how you've seen a change in these players.
Yeah, I think we've all been fairly critical of them, myself included. Tom, yourself, Richard,
We all
of
have,
us in the group chat. Literally, our group chat has been toxic towards that group of players.
Don't say it. Okay.
Rightly
Producer
so.
Matt, can you edit that out? Producer Matt, edit that out. Edit.
But I think certainly since I was Palace, I think Palace away was like almost like a turning point. I think that was because we lost at Arsenal, and then I was expecting a response at Palace away, and it never came. That's when I turned. But since then, whether it's just because of the players and sport, right, we're down, no pressure, not too sure. Obviously, Muric coming back in, Cullen coming back in, obviously helps and been a big factor. But we just seem to have a settled starting 11, pretty much, the odd tweak here and there. But our back 4 seems settled. The midfield 2 seems settled. That big and small partnership of Berg and Cullen seems to work for quite nicely. Brun Larson does the ugly stuff in terms of get a tracking back. I noticed Alderweireld doing that at Old Trafford, which is the first time I've never seen him run really backwards.
He ran a lot.
He did. I noticed at Sheffield United as well. He seemed to be doing a lot of the harder yards as well, which was good to see. And then even like players like Zeki Amdouni, like I get really frustrated with him because he's clearly a really talented player, but you sort of see him like sort of shoulders drop, strut around when he loses possession, and a ball back, you sort of lose your temper with him a little bit. But he fell over at Old Trafford, just like typically slips over like he often does, and actually bust the gut to actually get back and try and win the ball back. And I was like, why is it taken until now? This is what we need to see in October.
You're so right.
That's where a lot of my frustrations come from. Has been the clear lack of effort. I can sort of deal with the lack of quality at times. I think that's, if we go down due to a lack of quality, fine. But
Yeah.
if I know those players are like giving 110%, then I'm more than happy with them.
Yeah. Tom, that's a really good point, actually. And I wonder whether, well, I guess how much credit do we give to Kompany here, in that he's been warning us since the start of the season that it takes his players, 100 and something training sessions, hours worth of training sessions or whatever, before a team starts gelling. It didn't seem to take that long this season, but fine. This season's harder and it might take a little bit longer. I was always very skeptical of that. It always felt to me like a little bit of a press talk thing, a little bit of a deflection. And listen, and I caveat this, listeners, by the fact that I have no problem with managers trying to deflect pressure away from their players. I think that's absolutely fine. But Tom, is that what it's been here? Has this side finally started to reap the benefit of has it taken them a full season? Or is it more lessons have finally been learned? Which way do you fall down on this?
Yeah, I don't see it as this X amount of training sessions thing, because of how much the team's changed and how much the sort of the style of play has changed. We're not doing what we were doing last season. We're not doing what we were doing in the first few games, which was just naive and getting battered every week. I think you're right. I think he has learned lessons. We've been really critical of him this season, so I think we have to give him the credit when we've improved. There's some stuff which you sort of think, I don't want to give him a massive amount of credit for example, playing Norwich, because I think most fans would have done that earlier. So I think that's something that should have been more obvious. But I didn't think he'd ever do it. So at least he has done it, and obviously it's made a big difference. But I think one thing that really stood out to me, and Robbie was touching on it there, the way Amdouni's, well, I don't know if he's kind of got there yet, but he was talking, I think, post-match about the intensity of the league, and I was kind of starting to get into grips with that. To say Alderbert's work rate's really improved. I think what I have to give Kompany massive credit for is the belief that he's instilled. And he's always talked in these interviews about how he still thinks we're going to get there, and he's not worried. And I was just thinking, it's the kind of rubbish that you hear people come out with, but I think he genuinely does believe still, and certainly a lot more belief than I had and perhaps still have. And he's obviously got the players buying into that as well. There was at the start of the season we looked really poor, and then he made some tweaks. We were getting there. Still weren't great, and then we had a spell in the middle of the season where we looked a really awful team again, and we had the Arsenal at home and Palace away games back to back, and that was as bad as.
Oh, that was awful.
Yeah. And at that point, if someone had said to you, he's going to put Norwich back in and we're going to lose one of the next 8 games, you just thought they were crazy. And I certainly would have. And I wouldn't have thought that Kompany would have made the changes that he has made. I wouldn't have thought he could instill this kind of belief and work rate into the players. I certainly wouldn't have thought he could have got these results. So, I think we'd be churlish not to give him a lot of credit for the way these last couple of months have gone. We're playing some good football. We're not out of it yet. I do think we probably still have left it a little bit too late. I guess we'll come on to that a bit later. But what I was really worried about after that Palace game, because my sort of thought process with it in terms of the manager, as you know, and I'm always mentioning it, I wanted him gone in sort of November kind of time. And I thought, if you're not going to get rid of him in January and not give someone else a window, then there's no point.
There's no point, yeah.
At that point, I was like, okay, keep him. And then I watched the Arsenal game, and I just thought, I can't be doing with 2-3 more months of this. Like, he does need to go, but he's proved me well wrong with that. We've really kicked on from now. We're really improved. And the big thing for me is, even if we don't quite get over the line this season, I've got so much more optimism now about what we're going to be doing next season, because we look so much better, and it looks like, to me, he has learned some lessons. Well, he obviously has, because he would be playing Norwich if he hadn't.
True.
But I'm a lot more optimistic now, because I think even if we do go down, we're going to go down with a bit of momentum and a bit of belief.
Yeah.
A lot of belief. There's a lot more belief in the fan base. Certainly, I've got a lot more belief. The players are still buying in, you can see. And in conclusion, I think I would like to give a lot of credit to Vincent Kompany.
I love that. No, I don't even think you need. No, you don't need to swallow humble pie, Tom. I don't think that's a justifiable criticism of yourself, because what the criticism we've levied on Kompany and these players this season has been fully justified. Some of the football we've watched has been absolutely awful. Some of the tactics have been baffling. Some of the decisions have been stubborn to the point where they're borderline negligent. So they've deserved the criticism, and they've deserved the question marks over Vincent Kompany's future. And I'm not going to apologise for the periods of the season where I was with you all the way and thinking I can't watch any more of this. And I'm really concerned. As fans, we've always said, if you end up going down, you just want to go down fighting. And Robbie alluded to this in his opening piece, that, you know, if we've got a team that are still trying and it's just quality that's going to get you down, then we can live with that. And I can go down with a positive view that we at least tried in these last couple of months. I remain frustrated that it's with some of the mistakes that have been made this season. So even if we do go down, and we do go down with a fight, and I'm optimistic and I'm really proud of the last couple of months, I think my overriding feeling this season will be that of frustration, because I think we could have learned this earlier. It does feel a bit of a shame that a lot of these sides who we're starting to gel with and starting to believe in, and they're going to go in the summer, which feels like we're going to be starting all over again. But you know what? That's one for a future podcast. We don't not need to worry about that now. Robbie, Tom mentioned then about increasing quality and that there's a better improvement. I think one of the things that we saw against United on Saturday was this good attacking pressure. It was very proactive. It was very positive. It was pressing them, and we had a much more commanding hold on midfield, and we were getting ourselves into some really promising places. The final ball, the quality at the end was the one that was letting us down. That was lacking, but when you're a side at the bottom of the Premier League, you're not going to have the 50, 60 million pound players that can do that. But we definitely feel like there's a consistency in our approach, and we are really good to watch. Did you feel that in the game?
Yeah, I think I sort of forgot to mention it before, but we have an identity again. And I think a lot of my frustration around just after that Christmas period around January, February time is that we were getting absolutely tonked, and I didn't know what our style of play was. It's like we were trying to play out from the back, but we had no pattern to play. We had no like cohesion. It was really strange. At least like back in the summer, but at the start of the season, you could see what we were trying to do. We were just incredibly naive, and it just needed tweaking. And then you sort of come into this period, what we're seeing now, and 1 defeat in 8, and you can sort of see what we're trying to do. And just touched on the United game, it was like I was confident going into it because I knew we could get it United, because I know that they give you a chance. Because the midfield free push-ups to try and press, but their back four just stay like really deep. And you know full well if you break that line of three midfielders, you're in behind straight away. And we saw it time and time again. And it's like we couldn't believe how many options we had. And we just kept playing the wrong ball all the time. It's like, you know, when you have too many options, you don't know which one to choose.
You don't quite know where to go.
It was like that. It was like that every single time. And it was like, you've got to play the right ball, but because you've sort of thought about it too long, the pass is no longer on. And it sort of happened on 2 or 3 occasions at Old Trafford. You got a little bit frustrated with it, but it was certainly pleasing to see. Sandberg was probably the best player on the pitch by a country mile. How he doesn't sort of play for a more established Premier League side is ridiculous.
Well, he probably will next season. That's the.
I think
he's the one that we have said consistently that we will be really sad to see go. But even with his quality, I'm getting all my words the wrong way around today. I don't know what's going on. Even with his quality and him being probably, I think, candidate for player of this season, I would maybe suggest we'll do that. And
I don't think it's a contest, to be honest.
I don't think there's anybody else that is going to come that close, to be honest. But even then, it was still the self-destruct button again. It was still a lazy pass, Tom, that got Anthony through. You know, Anthony's goal. I don't think it was Anthony passed to, but got Anthony through in the end for the United goal, and it felt really disappointing that after such a good performance, and you know, we were really going well for a point, that we just had, it was a mistake again, even from somebody with that quality. And I guess what is it for you that's causing these players to have such a consistency of mistakes? Is it just technical? Is it discipline? Is it like, what is it? Are you starting to see something that we can put our finger on that we can improve with those mistakes?
I think it's different for different players. I think for some of them, they're just not good enough to play the way they're asked. We've said it all season, but obviously Trafford is one of those players. I think O'Shea is still one of them as well. He's improved a lot, but I still don't trust him with the ball at his feet. So it depends on the person. I think Berge is good enough to play that. I wouldn't say he's like got an amazing range of passing, but I mean, any Premier League player should be able to, should not be passing the ball backwards with 10 minutes to go and playing in the opposition. I think it's just a consequence, and it's not just us. You know, you see every team's doing it in every league now. It's just, you know, the coach to pass the ball and pass the ball and pass the ball. If a pass isn't on, you know, it's kind of like none of them kind of will ever dare to be the one who just puts the foot through it and puts it in the stand almost. Yeah. It's like, I don't know if they're sort of told if you do that, you're going to get dropped or whatever. But, you know, 10 minutes to go, you're 0-0 away at Old Trafford. If you haven't got a pass on there, it either needs to go past the keeper.
Yeah.
Well, there's something, sorry, just to jump in, there's a bit of frustration on it because Esteve points for him to play the ball back to Muric.
Oh, does
And
it?
it's like, Esteve said, just sort of points at Muric to basically saying, pass it back. And it's just sort of, for whatever reason, he plays a ball across the box with Esteve and it's just not on. To be fair, credit to Anthony for reading it, to be fair, but yeah, just one of them.
I'm not giving him any credit because I'm still annoyed at him. Did you see the dive that he did earlier on in the game to try and win a penalty? And there was one towards the end as well when they'd equalised. He was trying again to. No, I'm not giving him credit.
To be fair, the amount of awful VAR decisions, sort of have to take that chance sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
To be fair, if we're 0-0 in the 90th minute and gets Nottingham Forest on the last day and Odebear sort of rides a challenge, I'm telling him to go down in the box.
Oh, Robbie!
Because VAR will fucking give it.
Sean Dyche will be heading back to Turf Moor to give you a clip round the ear. He left that legacy with us, not on his watch. Not on his watch. Let's stick with you then, Robbie. I think one of the things that we were looking at is last week was the very strong mental attitude of Muric. He'd come off the back of the Brighton and Everton mistakes that had given him a real wobble, and he's had two incredible performances since then, and he played his part again at United, and he pulled out some cracking saves. Fine and Honor did as well. There was a couple from Foster which were very good, but I don't care about him. Obviously I'm looking at Muric, and his shot stopping I thought was sublime on Saturday.
Yeah, he's come out with a lot of credit. I thought it was a mixed performance, to be honest. When I was at the game, I thought a lot of his distribution was slack at times, and me and Tom in particular got quite frustrated in the away end. But
no,
obviously nobody come on.
I don't believe it. You two.
That's the risk of that's the risk and reward sort of stuff. And to be fair, we're actually getting some reward, so it's like fine. It is what it is. But yeah, some of his longer passes, his long passes are ridiculous.
They really are.
Yeah,
he's got no business making those passes.
Yeah, he made 2 or 3 like 60-yard passes out wide to either Brun Larson or Odebear, and he just absolutely pinpoint. But yeah, it's clear as day that the impact he's had. I think I saw a stat that in these 4 of his last 7 starts, he's been in the team of the week.
Oh wow, really?
Like that. Yeah, considering the mistakes he's made against Brighton Everton, I think that's quite impressive.
Yeah, I think I read an article not so long ago actually about Gareth Southgate's keeper problem, and whether or not Pickford is starting to come towards the end of his England career and needs some competition, but there's nobody other than Nick Pope who's never really been in favour for England. And I was thinking about this when I was looking at the highlights from the weekend. There doesn't seem to be a massively standout keeper in the Premier League, I don't think. I think a lot of sides have got problems with the keeper, and I don't know whether, Tom, it is this modern insistence on playing out from the back, and that keepers are there as the 11th outfield player. They're not there just to shot stop. And I think even when I was looking at some of the commentaries from some of the highlights from the United game, there's kind of like a little bit of a lazy analysis where when Sander Berg's pass went astray, or Burnley punished again from playing out from the back. But that's the way that modern football is played now. That's the way we will play next season. And Muric is absolutely fantastic at that. So I think that surely we have to take the benefits of that's a better way of playing, and look at the results since.
Yeah, well, it's just what we've all been saying all season, isn't it, really? If you want to play out from the back, you need a keeper who's comfortable at doing it. I think for whatever reason they thought Trafford was that keeper, and he obviously isn't. Maybe he will be in a year or two, I'm not sure, but he's obviously not at the minute. And that's, we, like you say, we've stuck to this style, and it's going to cost us ultimately. I mean, yeah, having said that, obviously knocking Trafford there, but Muric has cost us as well with his playing out from the back, hasn't he? As Robbie said, he was poor on Saturday. I thought gave it away quite a lot. Sheffield United, he gave it away 3 or 4 times. Brighton obviously has cost us 2 points, and Everton has cost us 1 point. So
yeah,
to me, I don't want to get on my soapbox about it, but I don't really like this kind of football. I think it's all.
No, you really don't, do you? No, you've said this all season. To be fair,
yeah, it's, to me, the rewards do not outweigh the risks.
They did last year, though, Tom. They did last year. Maybe it's just because of where we are in the league.
Well, I think if you're the best team and you've got more money than everyone else, then it's a good way of playing, because I think you do minimise your risks because the other team can't get the ball off you. But if you're a team who has, and what do we have, probably like between 40 and 60% possession maybe in the Premier League, so we certainly don't dominate the ball in the majority of the games we play. If you've got that kind of, if you're not that good, then it's going to cost you more than it helps you, in my opinion. And I think probably the way this season's gone bears that out. So for me, I think it doesn't, and I'm not saying never pass the ball out if you're a goalie. And certainly if you've got a player like Muric, you'd be wasting him just telling him to lump it up to the striker all the time.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's a lot more scope for just whacking it in the stand, in my opinion. And on Saturday, if Berger just whacked it in the stand with 10 minutes to go, do you know what I mean? We don't concede that goal, do we? And then who knows what would have happened from there. But, and at the point we are in the season now, we've got a bit about us where we can come from behind, and even if we give these goals away, we can still get a result. But for the majority of the season, as soon as we've gone behind, that's been it, and that's been game over. And I'm thinking back to like Wolves away, for example. That was a tight game, nothing in it. Wolves didn't really do a lot, and we've just handed them 3 points by giving them a goal. Crystal Palace at home, another one where they didn't attack us, didn't really have to do anything to beat us. We just handed them a goal. We handed them 2 goals, in fact, in that one. And if we didn't play this style, would we have got points in those games? Personally, I think we would have. But as you say, that's modern football now, and maybe I'm a dinosaur and used to adjust to the reality, but it's not for me.
I can hear the inner Sean Dyche in the voice.
Honestly, yeah. Listeners, welcome to this.
Put it in the stand.
Yeah, listeners, welcome to this retro edition of the None and Never podcast. It is 2014, and Burnley have just survived in the Premier League by playing Route 1 football. There you go. Where we gone? Quick one back to you then, Robbie. United whinging about a late penalty shout on Garnacho. Not for me, Clive. How did you think about
that? Obviously, it is very similar to the one that Coventry got against them, so I can understand their argument, but neither of them are penalties. So, no. Good.
I like that. Right, so where does this leave us then, listeners, with the relegation battle? Well, following these weekend results, the Opta stats have got Burnley an increased survival chance from 7% up to 13%. I think we were 98% favourites to go down at some point. So there's a 13% chance now that we will survive. It is 2 from Forest, Luton and Burnley, as I mentioned at the top of the show. The remaining 3 fixtures, just 3 games to go. Forest get Sheffield United away. Great. Thanks for that.
3 points.
Yeah, it's 3 points. Chelsea at home. Ugh. I actually think we talked about this on our group chats. We'll come on to this in a second, but we had general consensus is that they might find it tougher against Sheffield United than Chelsea. So please do bookmark that, listeners, for when that comes back to vitals, and it doesn't. And then obviously they play us at the end of the season. Luton, Everton at home, you would think that they will lose that. Everton playing sublime football at the moment and well out of it. West Ham away on the beach, that goodness knows how that's going to go. And then Fulham at home the end of the season. 3 very winnable fixtures there for Luton. They've definitely got the best fixtures on paper. And then Burnley, of course, we've got Newcastle at home this weekend, followed by an away trip to Spurs and Forest at home. It's not that simple though, Tom. It's not that simple, because we do still have this ridiculous scenario that is the appeals process. Forest, of course, deducted 4 points for breaching the profit and sustainability rules. And they had a hearing for their appeal on the 24th of April, and we are expected to find out this week what the results of those appeals were. Let me remind you, listeners, of what the outcome that there can be. There's a small risk that those points get increased. We were hoping that their Twitter exploits might lose them some favour, but apparently not. Apparently it's an independent panel, so boo. The points deduction could get upheld, which is the likely scenario, or they could get reduced. Given they only got 4 points, I think most people are suggesting that any reduction will only be 1 point, but even that's going to be a hard take for us. There's also a very weird scenario where they could get deducted fractional points. So that's, they could get fraction points back. So we could end up being relegated by a 0.3 of a fraction of a point. That's a nonsense decision. We're not going to dwell on that, because hopefully people see sense. Tom, let's come to you first. Taking all of that into account, the fixtures, the appeals, the points and everything, do we think that we have any chance of staying up? I know that's a very vague question. I know it's a very broad question. We'll get on to specifics in a minute, but how are you feeling about survival chances?
Probably about what you said there.
13%
is probably right with it. Yeah,
that feels quite high,
it's
actually.
It's a bit Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a chance?
They're saying that. Do you know what? That's one of the greatest lines and one of the greatest movies ever. You see, you're saying there's a chance. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still not confident, but I do think it's possible. I remember what it was like 2 years ago, and I just spent like every waking moment thinking about, how are Everton going to get on against Aston Villa this weekend, or whatever the fixtures were. And it's like, I'm in my head, I'm either doom mongering and thinking, we're going to get beat off Newcastle, we're going to get Spurs, or I'm thinking, if we beat Newcastle and Spurs, and Sheffield United turn up now that they're relegated and they've got nothing to play for, and Cole Palmer has a great game at the City Ground, then we only need a draw at him to push them.
That's what I like to hear, Tom. That's the attitude that we want. But I don't share that, Tom. I don't share that. I'll be devastated. I'm not going to get excited because I'll be devastated if we go down, because I do think we're going to go down. And I've spent all season fully expecting that we'd be gone by now. So I'm not going to be, it's going to be fine if we don't get relegated. But as I said last week, Robbie, that there's genuinely no reason for us not to get excited about survival hopes. Why not? What else have we got to do for 3 games?
Yeah, I think even back in February, I just wanted us to, to make a fight of it, and we were in real danger of being down by this point.
Yeah.
And to be fair, if honestly, after that Palace game, if someone said with 3 games to go you'd be within touching distance of staying up, I would have snapped your hand off. So yeah, positives definitely.
Yeah. I mean, the ridiculous thing though, Robbie, is the fact that we're all getting excited about a possible great escape and going down to the end of the season. And actually, Forest could have this appeal overturned and it's all over. Could we be relegated if they get their 4 points back?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that actually relegates us, doesn't it? Yeah, which is that'll be a rubbish week. I hadn't really thought of that. But the fact that it is the 29th of April, the day that we are recording this, and there are 4 teams at the bottom of the league 3 teams now who just don't know what on earth is going to happen, whether there's what they're playing for, what they need to achieve. It's appalling from the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the alternative is either, though, because you sort of
they should have done it in the summer, surely. It's down to timing, though, right?
Yeah, to be fair, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I don't really know what to say on it because I don't really know the ins and outs of these points deductions and these independent regulators looking into it. I just sort of stay away from it.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I think the frustration with it for me is it just feels so arbitrary. It's like Everton lost less money than Forest did, but then Forest have got more points, less points deducted. Sorry, they've got this 2 points off for complying with the investigation, but then they've appealed it. So how is that complying? And then it's like Everton got 8, they get 10, sorry, or 8, and then
10
it went
to start with, down to 6, yeah.
Yeah, and then they got another 2 separately, and then Forest is 4, and like you say, it could be 2. And then did you see the Premier League's tweet at the weekend saying Sheffield United are confirmed relegated pending the outcome of the Everton and Forest appeals, which the implication of that is that they could get more points. But then they deleted the tweet. So it's
for the love of God.
That?
But how's that fair on? How's that fair on any
thinking
set of fans? You've then got Forest fans and Everton fans absolutely bricking it, then going like, "Oh my God, we're going to get more." Like Everton were like, "We're fine." Like, "Oh no, maybe we're not anymore." And then you've got Sheffield United fans might be going, "Oh, have we got some false hope here? Would we might be able to do this?" I just think the whole lot's just massively, massively appalling. It really is. Okay, let's start wrapping this up then. Sticking with you, Tom. Based on that big pot of relegation things, and hopefully this same time next week we'll still be in these discussions. That would be really nice. Which 2 go down out of the 3?
I think if you're asking me to give you an honest opinion, I still think it's Luton and Burnley. Luton and Burnley, I think at the minute, I think with the fixtures is the big thing for me. I just don't. I think we're going to need to win 2 of our last 3, and obviously one of them's got to be Forest. I think we're going to struggle to beat Newcastle or Spurs, to be honest. And Forest, I think both their fixtures prior to us are winnable, and I think all 3 of Luton's are. So, yeah, I think that's just what I think. If we were all playing kind of similar level teams, I'd be a bit more confident. But I just think our running's the worst, and we're already starting from a lower base. So, yeah, I think
Robbie, which 2 go down for you?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Tom, to be honest. I think we might finish 18th if that's a small consolation for us.
It is not.
I think we've got the hardest fixtures, which in some ways might be a positive for us in terms of it might really make us up our game and know that we have to perform. Hoping that Luton might go into their final 3 knowing they're definitely winnable.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like we know we have to bring our A game, and Luton might just think like, "Oh, they're definitely 3 winnable games." Be going to a little bit more naive, but I'm clutching at straws, to be honest.
Clutch away, gentlemen, because we've got 3 weeks worth of content that we need to get out there for our listeners. So, and it's been very difficult this season to not say the same thing every single week. So please clutch. I like that. Well, I'm going to book the trend here. I'm going to say that it's going to be Forest and Luton that go down. I think Forest's appeal will be unsuccessful. I think the 4 points will be upheld. I think the Sheffield United will do us a massive favour because they don't want to play us next season. So I think they'll want us to stay in the league. Natalie's conspiracy theory of the week. And I think we're just looking well good. And it's a difficult one because I was watching a bit of the Championship this weekend, and we're just too good for the Championship. Even you forget this with us having such a poor season. We are profoundly better than the Championship. We're going to go down there next season, and it's going to be hard work in these sides. We're gonna win the Championship again. That's my prediction. I think we'll get over 100 points again. So yeah, it is really difficult. So I'm gonna say Burnley going to stay up. Listeners, drop us a line. That is all we've got time for this week. I'm going to leave it there. Any parting words from both of you before I go? Have we covered everything you want to talk about?
No, I'm happy.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I don't want to be even more negative note than I ended on there. So
yes, no, I nearly muted you then. I was like, no, Robbie, do you have anything else to say? Tom, you're not allowed. No, listen. One of the things we're massively looking forward to next season is the return of the optimistic and happy Tom Whittaker. It's been hard this season. He's usually the voice of reason in the podcast, and we've missed him this season. We need to get him back next year. That'd be nice. listeners, do drop us a line, interact with the show where you can. Put some comments if you're watching this on our YouTube channel. Drop some comments below. Let us know which teams you think are going to go down. Will Burnley be the ones to survive, or will it be Luton, or will it be Forest? Do let us know. Any Luton or Forest fans watching this channel, drop some comments down here and let us know how you think. If anybody wants to come on the channel before next weekend, do drop us a line. We've got the previous show on Friday with myself and Dave, and we will be looking ahead to that game at the weekend against Newcastle. So keep saying Newcastle. I've been saying Spurs all week. So if anybody sees any content from me that says we're playing Spurs this weekend, just ignore me. I've been getting my fixtures the wrong way around. And do let us know what you think the score predictions will be ahead of this weekend. I think that's all we've got time for. Nothing else to add. Do click subscribe. Leave us a review if you're listening to this on one of your podcast providers, and turn on your notifications. It really does help our channel grow. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the No Nay Never podcast. Until next time. The No Nay Never podcast is brought to you in association with the talkSPORT Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The Analysis Show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonaynever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners talkSPORT. We are proud to be associated with the talkSPORT Fan Network.